Welcome to Raise Nation Radio, the podcast for nonprofit movers, shakers, and change makers. We are here to fuel your passion with a daily dose of fundraising inspiration while keeping the conversations and connections from the annual Raise Conference alive all year long. Tune in for fresh perspectives, bold strategies, and the hottest trends lighting up the nonprofit world. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, buckle up. Each episode is packed with lively discussions, expert insights, and creative solutions to help you make an even bigger impact. Now get ready for another exciting episode. Please welcome your host from One Cause, Dawn Lego.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Raise Nation Radio. I'm so glad you're tuning in with us again today. We've been together for about 4 years, and I think during that time we've journeyed through every corner of the nonprofit world. And we've done that right here on this channel, Raise Nation Radio. We've had inspiring stories, exclusive behind the scenes insights, and we're able to do that thanks to all of you. It's you. It's our community. We've dove into 174 episodes thus far. And I think that's what makes the show so special. The broad variety of topics, and then all of you being so engaged. And thank you so much for being a fan and a friend. Your support is what makes this community just stand out and shine. So I appreciate the heart, the humor, the soul, and that helps me get right into a very important discussion today in the month of April. And if you follow the cause calendar, you'll know that we celebrate lots of things in April. One in particular is Autism Awareness Month, and near and dear to the heart of our guests today. So they've been here before. We have two people that are going to talk some pretty hard facts from Milestones Autism Resources. So we have Autumn. You've been with us before. Autumn, you're the Community Relations Manager at Milestones. Is that right?
That's correct, Dawn. Yes, I'm so happy to be back on your podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome back. But new to the show, and we're equally as excited to have her, is Esty Lowe, who directs the help desk at Milestones, joining Autumn today. Hi, Esty. How are you?
Hi, Dawn. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about some new things that I think we need to address in the neurodiverse community. But you know what? Our audience first wants to get to know both of you. We're a big happy family here. So I want them to know you like I know both of you. So we'll go in alpha order. That makes sense. Autumn, why don't we start with you? Just share who you are, what you do at Milestones, and your passion, your journey, anything you want to share personally. And then we'll throw it over to you, Esty, if that sounds okay.
Sounds great. Well, Dawn, I have been with Milestones for almost 4 years now, and it is definitely a labor of love for me. As with many people on our staff at Milestones, most of us have a personal connection to autism. So for me, it's actually with both of my kids. My son was diagnosed with autism typically at the age of 2.5.
That's when we normally would see a diagnosis of autism. Yep. Okay.
Very common. Yes.
But now you have an uncommon story too.
Yes. On the other hand, my daughter did not receive a formal diagnosis of autism until just last year at the age of 12. So, and this is something we're starting to see more and more common. And I know we're going to get into that topic, but first I'll toss things over to Esty so she can tell you a little bit about her story.
Let's learn all about Esty.
Thank you. I've been with Milestones for about 8 years. I oversee the help desk. Yeah, I've been here for so long. I'm so exciting. I love the work that I get to do and connect with the families that we serve through our help desk. We serve about 900 families a year. This is really exciting. I also have the personal connection of having a son with autism. Similar to Autumn's story, he was diagnosed when he was 2, the typical age that we're seeing, and notice the gender correlation there in the age. So we're really excited to talk about this topic because the more that we're in the community and the more that we engage with families, we learn that there's this need that's not being met.
So why is that? Why does gender play a role in neurodiversity? And why is there that gap? Are we too quick to diagnose if you're a male, or are we too late to diagnose if you're a female? Or just educate me. What is going on that there's just such disparity?
Sure. I'm happy to take this one. I think a big piece of it is girls are taught to mask by society. So we're taught, to present ourselves in a certain way. And what masking is it's really a form of camouflaging to meet what our peers are doing and to have this perception that we are calm and collected. That means we're not going to see the same types of behaviors that we would in males in adolescence. So anything.
But at two, Esty, at two,
So,
two-year-old girl is masking and camouflaging?
The 2-year-old girl is masking and camouflaging, which is,
God.
if you think about the preschool setting, which really starts at age 3, children are taught to sit in their desks quietly, right? We have calm hands and calm bodies. And, girls have this extra pressure to also be social, and we're going to be social and we're going to be polite and we're going to smile and make eye contact and give hugs, even those things may feel really unnatural to, a 2-year-old who is autistic and hasn't been undiagnosed yet. So they are left internalizing all of these behaviors and things and experiences that they may have, even if they want to behave differently when out in society.
I think
Wow,
a lot of
that really is a compound problem then. Not only are we, we feel so, in the mind of a 2 or 3-year-old, I would feel so misunderstood and not helped, isolated, abandoned, struggling. What's wrong with me? Layered on top of the fact that I'm differently abled, right? Which there's nothing wrong with being differently abled. We just need the right support from parents, teachers, the medical community to embrace that I'm differently abled. So it's very complicated. But you were going to say something, Autumn? I'd love to hear from somebody that experiences.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to throw in too, I think there are a lot of misconceptions too in the developmental milestones in boys versus girls. So, just because, say, for example, a young toddler girl is making eye contact, that doesn't mean that eye contact isn't difficult for her, or, that is not necessarily the big red flag in girls as it may be, say, in boys.
The red flag, because I know that's a top 5 for sure.
That's why I use that one as an example, because it's the one that so many doctors and psychologists rely on. And that was one of the things actually that prevented my daughter from getting her diagnosis for so many years, because she was verbal very early. She was social. She made great eye contact. These were all things that, no matter what I brought up to my pediatrician or even to the neurologist that we had taken her to, it was like, no, this is an autism because she checks all of these boxes. But what about all of these other boxes?
Yeah. Who's older, the boy, your boy or your girl?
My daughter is older. She's 13 and my son will be turning 10 next week.
Okay. So what has changed, or what is changing, or what needs to change in the medical profession and in society so that this doesn't happen? Because we know that we need to embrace differently abled individuals young and early. And the sooner that we get started with an individual in helping them feel confident in who they are is when they can reach their potential and their journey in life. And so what's going on over here that we need to fix to make this, bridge that gap?
I think that we are making progress on the medical side of things. The assessments that are given to diagnose autism were built around males. Yes, specifically Caucasian males. So there's all of these other populations that are being underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed just because the assessments weren't built to, notice the red flags and notice, the markers and the autistic traits that present differently. So I think that we are, a part of the medical community is working really hard to understand, okay, autism in girls does present differently, and they do need a diagnosis, because what's happening is when they're missed, they have all of these other correlating diagnoses, the ADHD, the anxiety, the OCD, and by going undiagnosed, it leads to depression and severe social anxiety. So I think that, there's this population of girls that we're seeing come through that are this 12 and up age range that have gone undiagnosed throughout their adolescence, and they haven't had the correct supports in schools, and they haven't had the correct social supports or interventions or services, and they're coming, in a place of survival because their depression is so significant and the anxiety is impacting their lives in such a way. A lot of them come in mental health crises. They come after having a mental health crisis, and
that's tragic. Oh my.
Tragic. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. So there could be other gaps too then. It's not just if these assessments have been built around a very young white male, we can see all kinds of gaps, not just in gender, right? There could be, I'm going to hit you with a hard question. What do you say to the community, to the world, to population out there that says, oh, we're just getting, we're overdiagnosing, right? Everybody's on the spectrum. This, now that we're seeing better assessments, we're tightening up what we should be doing to make sure that everybody has the diagnosis and therefore the support and the treatment that they need. For those that are not educated or didn't take the time to have this conversation and understand, and they're just saying, oh, we're just overdiagnosing now. What would we say to them?
I would say to look at the adults that are reaching out for a diagnosis. We've seen that number quadruple in the last 4 years. So, a solid 40% of the cases that we receive are adults looking for a diagnosis. That means that we should be diagnosing more appropriately in the younger ages now, right? We're hitting these 12 and 13-year-olds. So hopefully in 10 years, they're not reaching out to us for a diagnosis as an adult, because when adults reach out to us, it's because they're having a hard time maintaining employment, meeting their basic needs, forming relationships and maintaining them. And those are all just key aspects of life, right? Those are things that you need, an individual needs and should have, but they missed out on all of these crucial interventions and supports, and they're unable to get connected with some of the services and supports,
and to feel that belonging,
and
connection and belonging. Yeah.
That sense of community.
And they're a decade behind, right? So now they're playing catch up, right? And if they, so I guess my argument would be, well, we're not overdiagnosing, we're right diagnosing. And what's wrong with that if we're giving somebody the support that they need, whatever it is that they need, so they could have a more productive life and reach their potential, right? So I think that's what we're saying here for sure. What's the experience been like for you, Autumn, with your daughter versus your son? If you don't mind me asking, if you don't mind sharing, what did the late diagnosis mean versus the right diagnosis at the right time?
It was a weight lifted for both of us, for myself and for my daughter. For her, it was, Dawn, it's so sad because I can't tell you how many times over the course of her adolescence, she said to me, "What is wrong with me?" Just to have that weight lifted to say there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your brain just functions differently. Now that you have this diagnosis, you can advocate for yourself. You're eligible for services and supports that you were not eligible for before. And now, as you're entering, this is middle school, 13. She's now 13 years old. As you're
entering age for a girl.
Ages, as you're trying to work out these complex relationships with friends at that age level, you now are empowered to say, listen, I have autism or I am autistic. This is what that means. I may not fully understand your facial expressions. I may have a really hard time with some of this, very nuanced communication. I may need you to be very direct with me. And that has in turn empowered her to have better and stronger relationships and friendships. And just think about what that does for a kid's mental health. That's setting them up into the high school years, into the college years for, self-advocacy, for, better and stronger mental health, because they're not living all these developmental years with this level of self-blame. That's huge. Yeah. It's huge.
It is huge.
Yeah.
It is huge. It could totally change the trajectory of a young girl's life for sure.
Yes.
So let's talk about milestones a little. Let's talk about your mission, your vision, your programming, and how milestones fits into this epidemic, if you will, right? Like this just tragedy of missed, diagnosis or lapse of diagnosis. So let's talk about milestones. I want to hear all about what you're doing there.
Well, milestones exist to improve the lives of autistic individuals. And we do this through educating, through coaching, through connecting people with vetted resources. We offer a free autism help desk, as Esty is the director, and that is a huge resource, not only in our area, but for the entire state of Ohio and even nationally. Families or professionals can call us with any question or any issue they're having with troubleshooting, and we can help guide them step by step as to what they need to be doing next, whether they're still looking for a diagnosis, whether they don't know what to do next, schooling questions, medical questions, sensory questions, you name it. We have a national conference every year because education is one of our—
Tell me about that. When is let's talk about that. When's the conference?
Well, this is super exciting because our conference has a completely new name this year. It is now called Connection.
Oh, great name. Great name. Perfect.
June 10th and 11th at John Carroll University here in Northeast Ohio. And for the first time ever, this is a 2-day conference. Day one is completely free for families. It will be a huge resource fair. We're going to have live music from Rockability, which is a fantastic autistic band. We'll have food trucks. There's going to be autistic.
What does that mean? I want to pause there. What does an autistic band mean? What do they do differently to be an autistic band?
Let me tell you, you should Google Rockability. They are so cool.
I will.
They're so cool. Well, all of their band members have some type of developmental disability and bring their incredible talents all together in one place and just make magic happen. It's so cool. It's so fun and it's so empowering.
Wow. Great.
Yes.
So the first day is free, but then the second day is a paid experience?
The second day, yes. And we are offering up to 18 CEUs for professionals in the field. So one of the coolest things about Connection, about our autism conference, is that it is a safe space to bring together anyone and everyone from the autism community, whether you are an autistic individual yourself, a parent or caregiver, or you're a provider or a professional in the field. So if you're a therapist, if you work in a school district, a teacher, if you're a neurologist or a psychologist, everyone is welcome. And it's so cool to see all of these minds coming together in one place, sharing and learning from one another and making these lifelong connections.
From the same core positioning. What do you do to make it inclusive though? I mean, aside from welcoming everyone and anyone and making sure that your programming speaks to those different audiences, how do you make that experience feel like the right tone, the right vibe, the right sound, the right sensory, all the things that you would need? Because when you welcome a diverse population, you need to be thinking about a lot of different things: the food, the texture, the lighting, too bright, so how do you address all of those things?
Yeah, it's so important. And I think that, as we were talking about having especially day one free and open to everyone, and we want everyone to come out, this is a big piece of it, is the accessibility. So we actually have an accessibility committee that has autistic individuals who are a part of it. And we hear directly from them. What do you need to feel supported? What do you need to have this be accessible to you, to be able to feel more comfortable? And they give, great feedback and recommendations. We'll have a sensory space, one indoors, one outdoors. So there's one, out emerged in the event itself, and one that's a little bit removed if somebody wants to have a little quiet relaxation area. And just really listening to all of that feedback about what the community wants, because that's who we're here to serve, is the autistic community, making sure that, the parents and caregivers feel empowered, that the siblings feel empowered and welcomed, and that everyone comes and makes a connection themselves. That's the meaning behind the name, is we want people to come and connect.
What I think I love most about what you just said is that you have a committee and you have autistic individuals on that committee. So we're not speaking or thinking for a neurodiverse group, right? It's not just a bunch of people saying, oh yeah, I think we need to have a dark room and quiet space. Well, did we ask if they want a dark room and quiet space? Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but let's ask. I love that. I really need to applaud little applause here, what you're doing, and the way you're going about that execution, really living your vision. And that's just so special. So what's the breakdown of adults attending? Because that's we probably can talk about the gap with gender diagnosis. Ooh, what happens when you hit 21 as an autistic individual, regardless of your gender, your race, your religion? That is a monumental transition, and dare I say, a very, very difficult one, because whatever support you had really just gets cut off at the knees, like the day after you turn 21, which is so sad. So how much of an adult community do you attract to the conference, and where are your supports for that population?
Sure. Really, when we were constructing the conference, day one, we wanted it to cover the entire lifespan, because it's hard to do, but all aspects of life. So we want to make sure that there's representation for religion, for sexual health, the medical aspect of things, financial planning, housing, employment is huge. One of the things that I'm the most excited about is the social aspect. So we have social groups that are actually coming in and having little mini pull-out sessions. One is specific to Dungeons and Dragons, which is, we have a group of autistic individuals that we work with on a regular basis who help to moderate this group. So letting autistic adults know there's these communities that exist, come be a part of them, and providing that support. The social isolation that autistic individuals can feel is honestly, I can't even put into words, but what it results in is a lot of suicidal ideation that can even start at younger ages. So we have a really, really heavy impact on making sure that, again, we help form those connections, and we're there to bridge that gap, to connect you with resources and services that are available.
So do you work with I'm so sorry, Autumn, I'm just going to ask a quick question based on what Essie just said. Do you work with other organizations? Because we said that at the top of the episode today, that if you're not diagnosed, you're now bleeding into other issues like mental health and suicidal concerns. And so do you work with other nonprofits that is their direct mission to try to put all of this together?
Absolutely. So there's collaboration. There's also a lot of training that we do within Milestones. Our professional development team and our education department is able to go in and have specific trainings with organizations like NAMI, who does serve the mental health aspect of individuals. And there is a huge overlap. So making sure that we have the conversations of how do we support autistic individuals who are in a mental health crisis, and what does that look like? So we do a lot of different collaborations, and then we also do have a focus on having them at the conference as well, because it's so important.
I'm sorry, Autumn, you were going to say something and I cut you off.
I was going to say that really is the idea behind connection, behind the conference, is to get these voices together, to give them opportunities for advocacy, to say, listen, as autistic individuals, this is where we're seeing the gaps. This is what we need. And having that direct line of communication with the providers themselves to say, oh, okay, we see you don't have enough services and supports for adults. How can we go back to our hospital systems and address this need in the community? And connection is giving them the space to do exactly that.
I love that. Oh, so it's more than a conference for sure.
Yeah, it's a full convention experience.
Oh my God, fantastic. I so applaud what you're doing. Essie, let me ask you, what trends are you feeling at the help desk level? Like what's coming in the most, if there is a trend, or is it just random and a broad spectrum of a little bit of everything?
We do get a little bit of everything, but we do notice trends, especially in different times of the school year. Right now it's after spring break, so we'll start to notice a lot of school refusal. This is really happening in those 12 to 13-year-old ages. That's when autistic individuals, the idea of going to school is so overwhelming for them, and they do this masking and camouflaging throughout the day. They can make it
exhausted,
right? The burnout is so huge, and being able to acknowledge that that's real, especially when you get to this springtime, right? We're almost there. We're almost at the end. We can see it, but our bodies are just depleted. So the fact of getting up to do it another day leads to significant behaviors. So, we're seeing a lot of that right now. We're also seeing a lot of adults reaching out for a diagnosis. A lot of our hospital systems stop doing pediatric diagnosis at the age of 8. 8 to 12 is kind of the cutoff here. I know. So
So you're not in the pediatric community if you're 9?
not for a diagnosis, not for an autism diagnosis, which is fascinating. It's fascinating, and it creates a barrier.
Yeah,
So now we do have
for
these
sure.
individuals, I know we talked about it before, but we have these individuals who are reaching out and waiting for a diagnosis. There's a lacking in adult diagnosis providers because it's different. We've learned and we've had these.
So where would you go if at 9 years old you're not considered pediatric for a diagnosis? Where would a parent or caregiver take their pediatric child? Where would you go?
There's some specialists that we have who really do serve this niche of, Dr. Erin Babbitt is great. She's with UH. She does serve these in-betweeners, these middle school age group, the teens. And then from there, we consider it adult diagnosis. So we're linking you with providers who offer adult diagnosis. But it's still
well, with
waitlist.
adult diagnosis is a lot of it is private pay too.
A lot of it is private pay. And if it's not, the wait list is, I have heard hospital systems reference 4 years, anything from 2 to 4 years if accepting insurance, but, private pay is a lot quicker. However, a lot of these autistic or, individuals who are waiting to be diagnosed with autism are unemployed currently and reaching out to get a diagnosis to be
now we're dealing with
services. So now
poverty and homelessness and, food confidence. And we're dealing with a whole host of other issues.
Absolutely.
It would probably be better to have systemic change, and it would be so much less stress and so much less economically speaking if we just got it right, instead of letting all these things lapse.
Absolutely.
You're dropping a bomb on me today. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So what's the vision? What are you hoping for with Milestones Resources? Tell me where you want to be, or where society or the community needs to be in 5 years, and how you're going to impact that. What's the goal?
I think trainings are crucial, making sure that everyone is well educated. Us having these conversations are really impactful because we're able to raise the awareness of, we know that autism exists, but I don't think that everyone is as in tune with the gaps that are still there. We can hear the 1 in 36 number, and for someone who doesn't live the life, assume, oh, well, everyone is then accessing the services and supports that they need. They're getting these diagnoses. That number's, I hate to say this, that number's wrong.
Okay, we can come out and say it.
That number's wrong because it doesn't account for those who are waiting for a diagnosis, which the wait list can be 2 years, even in pediatrics, and those who are going underdiagnosed or those who were diagnosed as adults. So that 1 in 36 is not, having awareness as employers that, what do I need to do to be able to accommodate autistic employees? How can I best support them? Being open to hiring autistic individuals because there is a need, and these individuals are hardworking and they want to be successful members of society, and they have things to contribute. They just need to have people willing to accept their diagnosis and work with them and give them the accommodations that they're entitled to by law. It is an entitlement thing that they have. So I think that that's a big piece of it for me, is really that advocacy piece and raising the awareness, having the conversations of what we're hearing from the community. That's one of the biggest assets that we have in our job of having the help desk and hearing directly from autistic individuals, their families, their caregivers, even professionals, on what they're lacking and what they are having a hard time getting connected to. And we're able to take it back to the community and say, please help us fill these gaps. Help us to help the community.
Yeah. Law aside, that is all well and good. It's the right thing to do. Let's bring it down to humanity, right? It is just the right thing to do. It's called respect, right? I mean, it's just, thank God there's laws, but, I think the right thing to do should be more powerful than the law sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
Good Lord. So what do you need at Milestones, right? We have an audience that's listening. They might be learning about something new in neurodiversity in that community and feel like, oh, it's resonating with them. They want to help, right? So we know monetary support. I'm sure there's a donate button somewhere on your website that we can put in the show notes, as well as some other information and resources. But what do you need? If somebody's listening right now and they want to take action, they want to help, what do we need?
I think, yes. Well, first and foremost, we are a nonprofit. It is a really complicated time right now for nonprofits. And so I think if they go to our website, milestones.org, make a contribution, that's huge. Number one. Number two, if anyone who is listening happens to be a provider or anyone who wants to make their workplace more accessible, please come to our website and learn more about our training program. That is huge. And our training, our education team travels all over the country. Bradley Weiner, who's really an incredible force in our training department, he just got back from doing a training on the West Coast in Seattle. So training employers about how they can be more accessible in the workplace, about how they can make their workplace more attractive to bring in autistic talent, because autistic workers are incredible contributions.
If they're supported, right? If they're supported in the right way. Esty, I think before you mentioned something about behaviors as be coming out in when there's frustration. I think it's so important to pause right there and say a behavior is not a behavior. A behavior is very different in somebody who's typically developing. That a behavior is wrong, right? But a behavior is communication in the neurodiverse world. They are communicating. It may not be the safe way for themselves and for society, but they are communicating. So I think we need to take a step back and listen and fix the problem so that if we don't want the behavior, which we don't, right, we need to fix it, right? Whereas somebody else that's typically developing, consciously choosing their behaviors and their reactions and the things that they're doing. There's a difference there. And I don't like when I see that it's all lumped together. If you have a neurodiverse autistic individual displaying a behavior, there's really communication underlying there that we needed to address, and we didn't. We failed them. They're not failing us. Does that make sense?
It does.
Did that come out the right way?
No.
Feel free to paraphrase that and explain that better to Raise Nation if it didn't come out the right way.
It did. And I think that that's beautiful, touching on behavior is communication. And we need to be able to provide the tools and support to give the space to communicate. That may mean, we call it a pregnant pause, and it's waiting for an autistic individual to have time to process, to respond. We're not ignoring, we're not being rude. We need time to process. If not given that time to process and that space to process, it can look like we're having a behavior that is not, it doesn't match up. And by not saying something, that is us also communicating that we're missing a need. I've had my son explain to me that he literally cannot control his behavior. It's not something that he has control over if he gets to a certain point. If he's given the tools and supports leading up to that moment, he wants to avoid it just as much as I do as a parent. He doesn't want that. There's a lot of misconception that autistic individuals are not empathetic or they don't get embarrassed. A meltdown or big behaviors are significantly embarrassing. And it's not always appropriate to hound someone for a meltdown that they may have had or a behavior, especially when it came from a lack of support. And unfortunately,
right.
In the world of employment, that can lead to someone being terminated. But if we had supported them, we could have avoided it completely.
Right. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you. That was much more eloquent. Goodness. We have a lot of work to do, don't we? Well, thank goodness we have milestones. Is it the Northern Ohio area? Where are we located?
So our offices we're in Northeast Ohio. Our office is, in Cleveland, but we serve the whole state. We're happy to connect anyone with the resources that they're looking for, even outside of the state. We'll do our best to connect you with an agency similar to ours who can support you. You don't have to have a diagnosis. You don't have to have a diagnosis to come to Connections. We're a very welcoming organization and happy to provide support to whoever's in need of it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, we're going to get a lot of this in the show notes, how to donate, how to support the conference. Do you have a conference link or website yet, or is that yet to be published?
milestonesconference.org. If you go there, you can find anything and everything related to our conference, including our speaker lineup, how you can become a sponsor or exhibitor, and how you can register.
And are you in the thick of it now? I mean, it's April. Sure. So not only are you probably very busy for World Autism Day on the 2nd and the whole month of April, but at the same time, you have a conference in a couple of months. So how does that feel for you guys?
It's a lot, but I mean, we love the opportunity that the month of April gives us to get out here, to go on podcasts like yours, Dawn, and talk about this because information is power, right?
Yeah.
Education is power. People need to know. And that's why we're here. We're here to support. We're here to educate. We're here to connect. We are here for you to help people get through,
Whatever they're navigating.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just a beautiful way to end this episode. Thank you so much for joining. I think it's important. We want to bring awareness in the month of April, but we also want to be mindful that experiencing autism, whether yourself as an autistic individual, an adult, male, female caregiver, it is not 30-day experience. It is a 365-day experience. So we'll just bring a little extra awareness so that we could help ourselves remember all year long. But good luck with Connections in June. I hope you'll join us again. Let us know, the outcomes and the highlights and all those good things. We want to follow you and see how it's going. But thank you so much for joining today. It was just great to connect, if you don't mind me using that word.
We love it. Thank you
you,
so
Dawn.
much, Dawn, for having us back and for
Of course.
allowing us to share all this great info.
Yeah, it's good to catch up. Well, to our audience, that is a wrap for today's show. I know we have so much more to talk about, but a big thank you to Autumn and SD. They're just such a wealth of inspiration and passion and knowledge about where we need to go as a society. And to each of you for tuning in, you are truly the heartbeat of our community here at Raise Nation Radio. Remember, your voices and your experience make this show uniquely inspiring. So don't be a stranger. Join us on the show, just like Autumn and Esty did. hello@onecause.com, or you know how to get in touch with me. We'd love for you to share your story. And let's just continue to build this incredible community together. So until next time, y'all stay fearless and keep raising the nation. Bye for now. Fearless Fundraisers, that's a wrap for today. A heartfelt thank you to our guests for sharing their stories, insights, and expertise. And to you, our fantastic audience, for everything you do to build brighter tomorrows in our communities. We hope today's content inspires you to amplify your mission and grow your impact. Don't forget to join us for new episodes every Thursday, wherever you listen to your podcasts, or catch us on YouTube and on demand at onecause.com. Before we go, we'd love your help in growing this podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, and subscribe to Raise Nation Radio. Share it with a friend, and please leave us a review so we can continue delivering content that inspires and empowers. Raise Nation Radio is produced in partnership with One Cause, your go-to for digital fundraising solutions that connect nonprofits with their donors and drive results. Visit onecause.com or scan the QR code to schedule a one-to-one with their fundraising experts and explore the latest tools and innovations to help you reach more and raise more. Plus, be sure to check out their extensive catalog of free resources to support your mission. All the links are in the show notes. Raise Nation Radio is inspired by the annual Raise Conference, presented by One Cause. We'd love to see you in person at the next Raise event in September. It's a 2-day experience featuring over 35 CFRE accredited sessions, dynamic speakers, and the latest innovations from our sponsor pavilion, and priceless networking opportunities. And while you're there, don't miss the Fearless Fundraiser Party. It's where memories are made and lifelong friendships are formed. Secure your spot today at onecause.com/raise. The link is also in the show notes. Until next time, thank you for tuning in, and as always, stay fearless.